is Lindy Somek, who is from the Saginaw Ojibwe Nation, and she's going to deliver our land acknowledgement today. Lindy.
Bonjour, Lindy Somek, Nindichinikas, Amek Dodam, Saginaw Chippewa Dojaba, Anishinaabe Kwe and Dow. Good morning, DNC members, friends, and relatives. Let's talk about the land for a second. The DNC acknowledges and honors the Dakota Oyate, the Dakota people, who are the original stewards of the lands and waters of Minneapolis. The Dakota cared for the lands, lakes, and the Wapatonka, the Great River, the Mississippi River, for thousands of years before colonization. This land was not claimed or traded. It's a part of a history of broken treaties and promises. And in many ways, we still live in a system built to suppress Indigenous peoples' cultural and spiritual history. As Democrats,
hey, welcome in, everybody. So we've got, you are not going to believe this, the Democrats are doubling down on stupid. They are absolutely they cannot escape their completely ridiculous policies and beliefs and nonsense. And they just keep coming back for more. As Trump takes control of DC, as Trump rids the capital of crime, as Trump brokers peace deals, the Democrats are in absolute free fall. They are in a complete death spiral. And it is completely because they stand on the wrong side of every issue. And this was highlighted by their recent Democrat symposium in Minneapolis, in good old Tampon Tim territory. And he was the keynote, by the way, which tells you everything you need to know about this ridiculous symposium. But anyway, we are going to dive in because we're going to compile a few different stories and show you just how bad the Democrats have or what they're doing in terms of policy, in terms of messaging. They are not connecting with voters. They are about as popular with the aggregate voter in America as Cracker Barrel's new refresh is with Republican, their Republican constituents. This is just amazing. Welcome into Courageous Media. Thanks so much for joining me. Really appreciate it. Everybody, let us know you're here in the comments, and let's dive right in. Megyn Kelly, we're going to dive in with Megyn Kelly, but first I want to get to a couple of North Carolina podcasters who had this to say about the Democrat Party in their state.
The Democrat Party is an absolute free fall. Coming up, we're going to really dig into ability ratings. Literally, it's dropped to 34%. Now, that is the lowest rating since Gallup has been doing this back in 1992. This number, this rating is worse than the Democrats' approval rating back in 2014. That is the year they lost the Senate and they got their ass kicked coast to coast. That's a seminal year. They're tracking 5 points below that right now. What's more damning? Democrats in this poll don't even like Democrats. Only 73% polled said they view their party favorably. That number was 87% about 3 months ago. By contrast, us, Republicans, we're holding steady. 91% of GOP voters are sticking with the party. We love what's being done. So that this is a difference between a party with momentum and a party that's in crisis. So now comes.
That is the key. They are a party in crisis. Why are they a party in crisis? Not just momentum, although she did have that right. It's really because they are ending up on the wrong side of every single issue. They are on the 20% of almost every 80-20 issue. We had that opening clip from the Democrat Symposium where they literally brought up some ridiculous indigenous person loser to complain about the fact that the land is stolen from the Dakota people. Well, guess what? And Americans are not dumb. They started to look up their own history. Who did the Dakota steal it from? Have they sat on that land since time immemorial? No. They stole it from another tribe. And when they did, they brutalized them. They scalped them. They SA'd them. They killed them. It was absolute savage brutality. And they took it from somebody else, and they conquered it from somebody else, and they conquered it from somebody else. The fact that the European settlers showed up and said, yeah, we have better technology and we have better military and better tactics, and we're taking over, and then created a civil society out of it, they can't stand it. And they are siding with this idea, with this philosophy. They are siding with the illegal aliens. They are siding with Hamas. They are siding with the criminals. They are caping up for Kilmar Obrego Garcia, who is a known MS-13 member, who is a known domestic abuser, who is an alleged human trafficker, who is a known illegal alien. They are caping up for him every chance they get, when the vast majority of Americans want him and everyone like him out of the country. They are absolutely a party in crisis. And Megyn Kelly highlights that very clearly as we look at, once again, what is happening with voter registrations across the country, because this is the number one stat that shows just how bad the Democrats are hemorrhaging, just how big a death spiral they are in.
Really kind of want to start with this New York Times piece, Out of Power. This hit today by Shane Goldmacher with Jonah Smith, and is going on about the voter registration crisis that the Democrats are facing. The subhead is, the party is bleeding support beyond the ballot box, according to a new analysis. And the highlights of this thing show as follows. While there are still more Democrats registered nationwide than Republicans, though they point out that's simply because in states like California, you can register by party, whereas in a lot of red states, you can't. So that's even questionable. They say, nonetheless, for the first time since 2018, more new voters nationwide chose to be Republicans than Democrats last year. Of the 30 states that track voter registration by political party, Democrats lost ground to Republicans in every single one between 2020 and 2024, and often by a lot. That 4-year swing toward the Republicans adds up to 4.5 million voters, a deep political hole that could take years for Democrats to climb out from. It goes on to say all 4 presidential battleground states covered by the Times analysis, Arizona, Nevada, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, all of them showed significant Democratic erosion. In North Carolina, Republicans erased roughly 95% of the registration advantage that Democrats held in the fall of 2020. Really kind of want to start with,
this is extremely important. The question to ask, which the question the Democrats will never ask, is why? Because a lot of people can chalk up the last election win to Trump, to the power of personality, to the fact that it was Trump on the ballot. And there's a lot of Democrats, I think, that are just banking, hoping against hope, against reality, that if they can keep Trump off the ballot in the midterms, they can win back the House, and then we can get to 2028 and Trump will no longer be there. And they'll be battling a regular old Republican, and they think J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio is just going to go right back to the old controlled opposition ways. What they don't realize is 2 things. A, Trump is fundamentally changed and is changing the Republican Party. He is fundamentally transforming it. He has another 3.5 years to fundamentally transform it into the core in, core out MAGA America First Party. It will no longer be the controlled opposition. We see that now in the redistricting fight that the red states are taking up. It got started with Texas, but now you've got Florida, Indiana, Ohio, North Carolina. Basically, you've got up to 20 red states that are saying, all right, yeah, we're going to redistrict, especially if Gavin Newsom goes through with this nonsense. we're going to go on the offense and we are going to redistrict and we are going to push the Democrats out of congressional power for 2 or 3 generations. So you've got the Republican Party is becoming more like Trump. It's becoming more like the fighter party. It's becoming more like Vance. That's extremely important. The other thing that's happening is despite Trump, you've got the Democrats hemorrhaging voters in the registration process. This has nothing to do with Trump because Trump is not on the 2028 ballot. This has everything to do with voters are looking at the Democrat Party. They're not looking at their messaging. They're not just looking at the fact that the Democrats are leaderless and clueless and feckless. They're looking at what they actually say and what they actually support. And the American people do not support the whole trans ideology. They absolutely do not support gender mutilation of children in the name of gender affirming or trans care. They don't do it. They don't support it. Hence, they are walking away from the Democrat Party. They don't support nonsense like the Europeans stole indigenous land and somehow we owe it back to them. They don't support that. They don't support BLM. They don't support Antifa. They don't support guys in women's sports. They want safe cities. They don't support illegal aliens. They don't support rampant migration. They don't support criminal. All of the things that the Democrats are doubling down on is exactly what the vast majority of the American people do not support. And it is now even readily apparent to places like CNN. You've got Harry Enton, who's somehow become the voice of reason recently, trying to call out CNN and the Democrat voters and saying, what are you knuckleheads doing? Check this out.
More of an uphill battle than conventional wisdom might suggest. CNN chief data analyst Harry Enton runs the numbers on why things are looking bleak in the search for new Democratic voters.
Hey, Jessica, happy Sunday. Look, the Democratic brand right now has about the appeal with the American voter as the Cracker Barrel rebrand has with the American consumers. Bad, bad, bad. What are you doing? Oh, my goodness gracious. What are we talking about here in terms of big party registration changes in the key swing states? Let's look at the key 4 swing states that, in fact, do keep track of registration by party. Look, the Republican Party is in their best position at this point in the cycle since at least 2005, in all 4 of these key battleground states. We go out to the Southwest, Arizona. How about Nevada? Republicans haven't done this well since 2005. Oh, my goodness gracious, at this point in the cycle. North Carolina, I couldn't find a point at which Republicans were doing better at this point in the cycle. It's at least this century. It probably goes way back in the last century. And Pennsylvania, very similar. Republicans doing better at this point than at any point this century, at least as far as I could find. Now, what types of gains are we talking about here for the Republican Party? Well, let's compare it to this point during the first Trump administration all the way back in 2017. Look at this. The Republican Party gains in party registration compared to this point back in 2017 during the Trump first administration. In Arizona, you got a Republican gain of 3 points. Okay, how about Nevada? Up the hill we go, even though we're sticking in the Southwest. A gain of 6 points. How about, again, we come to the East Coast, North Carolina, a gain of 8 points for the Republicans. And in the Keystone State, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, again, we're talking about a gain of 8 points. My goodness gracious, for Republicans, they are converting old former Democrats to their side of the ledger, as well as picking up new voters, registering new voters, and it absolutely paid off for them back in the 2024 election. Now, of course, Donald Trump has been president since January. Are there any bright spots for Democrats? Have they picked up any ground since January 1 in terms of party registration? Not in these key swing states, these 4 key swing states. What are we talking about? Party registration margin gains since January 1, 2025. Which party's gained in Arizona? The GOP. How about Nevada? The GOP. North Carolina? The GOP. How about in Pennsylvania? We'll make it 4 for 4, the GOP. The bottom line is this, Jessica Dean. When it comes to party registration, Republicans have made massive gains compared to 8 years ago. They are in their best position in these key 4 swing states dating back at least 20 years. You have to go back at least 20 years, at least in the case of Nevada, longer in North Carolina and Pennsylvania. So Republicans looking pretty gosh darn good, at least when it comes to party registration. and we'll see what happens down the road. But at this point, as I said at the beginning, the Democratic brand is in about as good a position as the Cracker Barrel rebrand. It is bad, bad, bad for the Democrats.
It is toxic. The Democrat Party has become toxic because people don't want trans ideology for minors. They don't want criminal illegal aliens. They don't want forever wars. They don't want the military industrial complex. They don't want totalitarian big pharma. They don't want anything that the Democrats are supporting. And Harry Enton and CNN are trying to sound the alarm for Democrats. Wake up, because you are losing. Realize that by this time in 2026, if trends continue, the Republicans will have erased the 1 million voter registration advantage that they enjoyed in Pennsylvania prior to the 2016 election. In Pennsylvania, Democrat voter registrations outnumbered Republicans by almost 1 million voters. At this time in 2026, that margin will be completely erased. And so talk about a purple state like Pennsylvania, which would flip back and forth based on how the independents moved. Even with a 1 million voter registration advantage, the Dems could still lose Pennsylvania. Think about how they can possibly win when they don't have a 1 million voter registration advantage. It will begin to cement Pennsylvania as a solid red state. Just like 8 years ago, Ohio was a swing state. Ohio was as purple got. In the last 8 years, Ohio has become entirely red. Florida, remember Florida, the hanging chads? Florida was the battleground state. It was the bellwether. If you won Florida, you won the presidency. Now Florida is as deep red as you can get. Trump won Florida by close to 20 points. It's absolutely amazing what the Republicans have done. They've done it with things like Turning Point Action. They've done it with things like Scott Pressler's organization actually getting out there and grassrootsing this thing. But at the same time, they have been emboldened, enabled, aided by the fact that the Democrats double down on stupid. They double down on woke, which nobody wants. They double down on evil. We're going to bookend this discussion with another clip from this Democrat symposium, which was supposed to be a wake-up call. It was supposed to be an intervention for Democrats to let's get on the same page. Let's get our messaging right. It has nothing to do with the messaging. It has everything to do with the message. Check this out.
The really lurid issues voters care about. Where does Trump go? Migrant crime, carjackings, the really lurid, awful stuff that is a crazy, crazy visual. Don't take the bait, because most Americans are more worried about how are we going to address mental health issues, the visible homelessness that we see on streets, and how do we deal with mental health and other issues that drive the sort of random incidents that scare all of us. That's what you should be talking about. That's where you should be focused. Don't take the bait in talking about migrant crime or carjackings or the things that actually don't matter to that many Americans. And then go to the issues.
This is laughable. I mean, I've been a little sick lately, so it's hard to laugh because I'll end up coughing. I'll go into a coughing, but this is absolutely ludicrous. Americans don't care about migrant crime and carjackings and murders, homicides. They don't care about that stuff. Americans care about mental health. Americans care about gender affirming care for children, for 3-year-olds. No, you ridiculous person. The three things that Americans cared about the most in the previous election was illegal immigration, the open border, migrant crime as number one. Number two, the economy, prices, inflation. Number three, and basically crime in general. Americans are sick of it. They absolutely care about migrant crime and carjackings. They are not thinking about mental health other than the only thing that Americans think of. because clearly 90+% of the visible homeless problem that you talk about can be cleaned up in one of two ways. Either enforce all the vagrancy and loitering laws that are out there on the books right now and just simply push people aside. And then the next thing is reopen the asylums, because 90% of the visible homeless have a mental health issue. Whether it is schizophrenia, whether it is some other mental health condition, whether it is addiction, those three things account for 90% of the homeless issue in America. And it's because we closed the asylums and we stopped caring for people who needed help. They needed to be incarcerated for their own good because they cannot take care of themselves due to their mental condition. That's the only mental health that Americans care about. But these people, these Democrats, are so blind and stupid. They think that Americans don't care about crime and about illegal aliens, and it is absolutely 180 degrees from the truth. I'm going to end with this clip, and then we're going to dive into our next segment, which is a kind of a follow-on to this, which is, the Democrats are imploding as Trump takes control. Now, check this out. I thought this was a great clip, but this just about sums it up in terms of where the Democrats sit and how bad it is for them.
Tonight, the world watched as President Trump delivered his address. And what did we see? Not just division, something worse. The Democrats didn't clap. They didn't stand. They sat stone-faced, refusing to acknowledge even the most basic moments of human decency. A young child fighting cancer, silence. The sacrifice of American heroes, nothing. They couldn't bring themselves to celebrate life, courage, or even common humanity. And then disruption. Representative Al Green shouting, waving his cane, making a spectacle. The Democrats embarrassed themselves, not just politically, but as people. The world saw it. America saw it. This wasn't protest. This was the death of a party.
This was the death of a party, because it's not messaging, Democrats. It's the message. Americans are not buying your stupid, anti-American, globalist, nonsense, woke message anymore. They have woken up to it. They're seeing through the thin veneer of lies that you paint over things like gender mutilation of children, that you paint over things like rampant illegal alien crime while they get free government stuff and Americans are sent to the back of the line. They are waking up to this and they are sick of it. Now, let's dive into our next segment. Really appreciate everybody rolling up. Thanks so much for being here. Chris Human in the house, Texas fan in the house, Scott W. The Democrat Party is extremely toxic. Absolutely agree. Jimmy Kimmel. Oh, geez, this is a knucklehead. Dems have no future. Thanks everybody for rolling up. Really appreciate you being here. Please smash that like button. Turn on the notifications and subscribe if you haven't already. And also share Courageous Media. Let's dive into our next segment, because in a complete juxtaposition for what the Democrats are doing at this ridiculous Minneapolis symposium, whining about the indigenous land and the theft of the land from the savage Indians, whining about illegal aliens, whining about the woke ideology. In contrast, the Republicans, and Trump specifically, are out cleaning up crime. And it has become a visible thorn, a plank in the eye of the Democrats, because they cannot fix what has become the optics. Everybody sees it. And Democrats are seeing it and going, wait a minute, if Trump could do this, what have the Democrats been doing for the last 50 years? So let's dive into this. Check this out.
So President Trump has not even had control over Washington, D.C. for 30 days. And I have on my For You page video after video showing D.C., specifically Union Station, and how clean and safe it is. People don't understand how big of a deal it is, specifically for Union Station, because there is a bridge whether it's to bypass, it's either 95, 395, or 495, where the homeless, as well as people who are abusing drugs, as well as the drug dealers, they just squat. It's clean. It's all gone. This was also an underpass bridge where people would throw their wastes. So you would drive on the main road, and to the left and right of you is nothing but trash. It's all clean. People don't understand how big of a deal this is, because the Capitol is right there within like a 6 or 7 minute walk. And then also local residents, they did not like walking there, whether in the daytime or the evening. Some people would take taxis just to avoid any type of encounters. And people have been talking about cleaning this up for a decade. And you mean to tell me President Trump hasn't even had control for 30 days and he cleaned it all up? So President Trump has not even had
President Trump has not even had control for 30 days, and he has already cleaned up major portions of DC. We've got statistics now that say there hasn't been a murder in DC in 11 days. 11 days in one of the highest murder rate capitals in the world and one of the highest murder rate cities in America. Not a single murder for 11 days. Everybody sees this. The media sees it. Democrat voters see this. Democrats in DC see this, and it is not good optics for Democrats because they continue to double down. They want their crime. The mayor of Chicago is saying, no, don't come clean up our city. We want our crime. We love our criminals. We love our illegal aliens. The message is not resonating. Check this out, because Trump was speaking from the Oval Office, and Stephen Miller, he asked Stephen Miller to speak, and Stephen Miller just killed it. Here we go.
Please say a few words.
Thank you, sir. So just to, first of all, follow up on what the Vice President said, no police officer working in the city can remember a time in their lives when there has been no murders. You can work at the police department for 20 years, 30 years, your whole life. We've checked the records. No one can even find a record of being murder-free for as long as we've been murder-free under President Trump's leadership. Additionally, and the President spoke about this before, we've uncovered, in the process of uncovering, a massive scandal in Washington, D.C. with the doctoring of crime stats. And the Department of Justice, under the Attorney General, is leading the effort to uncover this. But when we ultimately share the results, it will stun you. The extent to which, even though D.C. had the worst crime in America, honestly measured, it dramatically understated how bad it was. There's even accusations that murders and homicides were reported as accidents instead of murders. I mean, this is how severe the manipulation of the crime data has been in this city, and it will all be uncovered and it will all be brought to light. You know, I've had a chance to spend some time, as has everyone here, with the police officers in the city. Members of the public are going up to them and thanking them, just overflowing with gratitude, because for the first time in their lives, they can use the parks, they can walk on the streets. You have people who can walk freely at night without having to worry about being robbed or mugged. They're wearing their watches again. They're wearing jewelry again. They're carrying purses again. People had changed their whole lives in this city for fear of being murdered, mugged, and carjacked. It is a literal statement that President Trump has freed 700,000 people in this city who were living under the rule of criminals and thugs. And the last thing I'll say is that under the efforts of Terry, to my left and many here, what they found also is that the street criminals here in Washington, D.C. were doing business directly with the transnational criminal cartels, the foreign terrorist organizations. So not only was the city being run by these criminal thugs, but they were working with some of the most dangerous terrorist organizations on the planet to traffic weapons and drugs into this city. And what we are uncovering every day is shocking to us, and we look forward to sharing all the results with you. But President Trump, your leadership has uncovered some of the great public safety scandals of our life, and now because of you, people are safe and free for the first time ever in this city.
Absolutely. They're finding out that the massive crime in the country was enabled by Democrat policies, and it was enabled by the fact that the Democrats turned a blind eye to the influx of massive transnational terrorist organizations that used criminal illegal aliens and the crime in major Democrat cities, major cities in general, in order to gain beachheads and footholds for their terrorist transnational activities. And they started funneling guns and drugs into America. The fentanyl that has flowed across the southern border under the Biden administration has killed 100,000 people a year. 100,000. We went to war in the Middle East for 20 years because 3,300 people lost their lives on September 11th. What are we going to do for 100,000 dead a year? That's more than died in the whole of the Vietnam War, twice over, again and again and again, year after year. This is the national security crisis that the Republican Party, that the Trump organization has uncovered because they federalized DC. They have uncovered the crime stat fraud, the covering up of actual crime statistics. They uncovered the fact that the Democrats were allowing transnational terrorist organizations to use the crime, and specifically the migrant crime in cities, to advance their anti-American agendas. And this is now what's happening in DC, what you saw from that first clip, where he's cleaned up the parks right around the Capitol, where people can walk again, what you saw from Stephen Miller, where the city has become safe again, is now translating to places like Chicago. People are asking Trump to do the same thing. Check this out.
Hey, Trump, you need to bring the National Guards to Chicago, man. You got kids killing kids, man. That's not good, man. Washington, D.C. is not much going on compared to Chicago, man. I'm running. It's a war happening right now in Chicago, man. Hey, look, man. Look, go on the news, or go on Google, type Chicago. I'm going back home to Africa, man. I can't. Too much going on, man, in Chicago, man. Yeah.
Think about that. Now you've got people saying, hey, we got kids killing kids in Chicago. We've got black on black violence that claims hundreds and thousands of lives a year. Think about this. In DC, there's not been a murder for 11 days. Statistically, 95% of all homicide victims in DC are black. Trump is the ultimate BLM president. The BLM should be out celebrating Donald Trump, celebrating the fact that, based on statistics, 10 Black Americans are alive today that, if Trump hadn't acted, would not be alive. 95% of homicide victims are Black in DC, and there have been 11 days without a homicide. This is absolutely amazing stuff. Now check this out from News Nation talking about this same thing.
Chicago, help is on the way, though. The Pentagon confirming a plan for a potential National Guard deployment there. Chicago crime is up 40% in just the past 4 years. Murder down, but everything else up. And by the way, on those murder numbers, just like Washington, D.C., it'd be good to dig into the stats. See exactly how they're classifying crime. They're classifying felony up, misdemeanor up, motor vehicle theft up. But despite those stats, the city's mayor says, no, we want to keep our crime. What this president is doing.
Absolutely. We're going to back this up a little bit. But he's absolutely right. Remember that in DC, they were classifying homicides based on the political wins in DC. They were having high-ranking members of the police department who were forced by essentially the mayor's office to show up and say, oh, no, that's not a homicide. That's an injury. That's an incident report. We took an injury to the hospital report. They were classifying crimes as incidents in order to doctor the statistics. And there is no doubt the same thing is happening in Chicago.
What this president is doing, he's declared a war on poor people, picking on homeless people, picking on the most vulnerable. That is not what the people of Chicago are going to stand for. And so we'll use all means necessary to us to ensure that we protect the Constitution and we protect this beloved city.
No, he has not declared a war on poor people. He's declared a war on crime, and he's declared a war on criminal illegal aliens. Exactly the two things that Americans in general, and specifically residents of places like Chicago and DC and Detroit want. They want the illegal aliens out, and they want crime to stop because it affects their daily life. And Trump has physically and visibly put a stop to it in DC, and Americans, specifically Black Americans and inner city Americans, are taking notice, and the Democrats can't stand it.
Tyranny? The Chicagoans want to keep the crime? Let's ask a Chicago resident, Chicago GOP congressional candidate and founder of Chicago Red, Patricia P. Ray Easley. Patricia, thanks for being with us here today. Does Brandon Johnson speak for Chicagoans? You see it as tyranny. You don't want help in Chicago?
He doesn't speak for us at all. He's speaking for the people that he represents, which is the Chicago Teachers Union and the Democratic Socialists of America. The citizens of the city of Chicago want safety and security. We're paying lots of property taxes to live in this great city, and our mayor has funneled our money to an illegal international criminal organization for them to bring them here and take our money. So we are very happy that the president is here. Thank you so much, President Trump, for hearing us, and we can't wait until we get justice in this city. However, we're
absolutely. Pritzker and the mayor of Chicago have taken hundreds of millions and billions of dollars, funneled them to transnational terrorist groups that traffic in human beings, bringing illegal aliens to the city, and then paying those illegal aliens money that American citizens don't get. American citizens with a social security number in Chicago are at the back of the line. If you're an illegal alien, you get EBT cards worth thousands of dollars. You get free rent. You get put up in hotels. You get free cell phones, the whole 9 yards. American citizens don't get that. And crime is rampant in Chicago, and people are tired of it. They want President Trump to come clean it up. He doesn't have the authority in Chicago that he does in DC, because DC, with the Home Rule Act, the fact that it's a federal jurisdiction, gives Trump a lot of real political control that he cannot exercise in Chicago. But what Trump can do is he can deploy the National Guard to support ICE activities. And in so doing, he can flood the city with National Guard that can act as basically anti-crime barricades within the city, allowing the Chicago police to then go do their job. Exactly what they're doing in DC. The National Guard has taken over all of the well-trafficked areas, the monuments, everything else, that has freed up DC Metro cops to go and actually arrest criminals. And they've been directed to do so by the new leader of all that, Pam Bondi and her team, which are directing them, go arrest. Trump is getting rid of cashless bail, which is the other bane in crime fighting. As soon as you arrest a murderer, they're out on the street in 2 hours. Cannot happen. Trump is ending all of that. And with that, you might very well see the DC anti-crime methodology and plan come to a liberal city near you. And wouldn't that be amazing to see Trump go clean these cities up one by one and further exacerbate the hemorrhaging of Democrat voters as they look at places like DC and go, wait a minute, Democrats have run this city for 50 years and it's only gotten worse and worse and worse and worse. Trump takes over for 30 days and what? It's cleaned up? Not a murder in 11 days? What's going on? It's absolutely amazing stuff. Let me know what you think in the comments. Really appreciate everybody rolling up. Sorry, coughing, hacking up along, been rather sick lately, but definitely wanted to do this video when I saw Harry Enton had to get in on the action and actually call out the Democrat Party. This is amazing stuff. Really appreciate everybody rolling up. Please remember to smash that like button, comment for the algorithm, subscribe if you haven't already. Please share a Courageous Media with everybody that you know. And if you're so inclined, join us as a member of the Courageous Army on YouTube. Just hit that join button. Thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate everybody rolling up. Remember, God is good and he is sovereign. Till I catch you next time.